What's up, guys? Welcome to DeFi Top Signal. We're going to talk about, well, maybe it's your favorite coin, maybe it's not. If we do, it's probably time to sell. But today we got Patrick coming on in like 20 minutes. And most importantly, we got Austin from Blockbytes. Used to be FTM Alerts, but you guys know him as like Giga Chad. Trust me, he's cool. And then we got some dude named Abs. He doesn't really have abs, but he's on the channel with us. So, Austin, dude. Tell us about yourself, man. I know
What's happening,
dude. Good's happening, man. How about you?
Yeah. It's great to see you, buddy. I've known Drake for a minute, man. We did our first episode probably pushing 2 years ago, a year and a half, anyhow, right? What? It was wild, dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My name's Austin. I'm a founder of Blockbytes, blockbytes.com. We used to be called FTM Alerts. I did a lot of work for the Phantom community back in the day. Big focus on like education, DeFi strategies, things like that. I don't know. That's pretty much the spiel. Honestly, I don't go on a lot of other people's channels, so like I'm really like excited to chat with you guys because it's rare that I'm on someone else's channel and not my own.
Yeah, so Austin, welcome. Appreciate you hopping on. I followed you since the FTM alerts, and I was literally avid on FTM a whole bunch. Made a lot of money off of you. Thank you.
Hey, dude, I'm so glad to hear that.
No, it was huge because I think you first said something with Spirit Swap, which I think it's probably going to be a nice little segue into that first topic. Because I'm excited about that. I'm sure you heard about the news, but we'll get into that. But yeah, you talked about a bunch of everything with Phantom, and it was a great ecosystem. I say was because there's a lot of exciting things going on other than just L1s at this point. But first and foremost, what is your take on what's going on with Spirit Swap?
Yeah, let's chat. There's so much to unpack, like not just on Spirit Swap, but in Phantom in general, So when it comes to Spirit, I was real bullish on Spirit Swap for a while, and a lot of that stemmed from a couple things, but mainly the amount of time I spent with the team. Like I got to meet them on camera early on, but then I got to spend like some real time with them out in Abu Dhabi at the Phantom Developer Conference at the end of 2021. And I was like, all right, these guys, I'm a big believer in like buying into people. I have to connect with the person behind it for me to like really get behind and understand the vision, which is not always the greatest thing. And case in point with Spirit Swap. So I did get to know the team. And they were a real competitor, for a while. And they were a doxed team versus, Spooky was their main competition at the time. And then
I'm just
Beethoven.
sharing this so you guys can see.
Yeah.
Spirit Swap calling it quits type of thing.
So, but a couple things happened. So they had like this quote unquote bullish catalyst that was coming, which was going to be the Spirit Swap V2. And they did put a ton of work into this, which was kind of like this amalgamation of like, I don't know if I use that word correctly, but it was like they took components from Solidly and Curve and Beethoven, like they were going to have weighted pools and all of this stuff. I was like, all right, this is cool. But what happened during the amount of time between they started that development and when they actually pushed it out, because the main guys were not the developers, they had a development team that was doing this for them, is they lost so much market share, and the actual market size on Phantom started dwindling big time after Solidly and all of that stuff, right? And so they were just so far behind the eight ball at that point that if they didn't release a product that was absolutely out of this world that incentivized people to use their DEX, there was just no way that they were going to be able to hack it. And the problem was they had already emitted so much of their token, and their token was worthless. Like, what do you do in that instance? And so I had multiple conversations with the guys, trying to figure out how do you incentivize people to use your DEX? Like trading fees clearly aren't going to do it. Yeah. And they thought about like releasing a stable coin, kind of like a liquidity style almost, but it allowed you to collateralize your LP tokens. They had some cool ideas. None of them ever came to fruition though. And so, long story short, they made no money. The treasury had no money. And when everything happened with multi-chain, what money they did have
got roasted,
went bye-bye. And I will tell you, like, I really have a lot of love and respect for the Spirit Swap guys. You know, I exited my position a few months back. And the reason that I did that, and I've never told them that, but like I will explain to them why if they ever ask. Sorry, my little girl is just running in the room. Is that do you hear her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's like, Dad, come on.
My 3-year-old is my biggest fan in the entire world. I have 4 kids, but she just is nuts over me. But I had a call with these guys and they had started working on like this decentralized ID stuff. It was kind of in the wake of the OFAC blacklists with Tornado Cash and all of that. And that's where their passion was. And when I got off that call, I knew that they weren't focusing on Spirit anymore. And so I exited my position after that call. And it was, you know, it was a fairly large position. So anyhow, but Phantom, let's talk about Phantom for a second, because like up until a few months ago, I was very bullish on like Phantom, on Phantom's future, on where they were going. You know, they got this, you know, I chatted with Andre and he's like, yeah, we got a banking license. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. You guys got a banking license. And, you know, so back when I was still FTM Alerts, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they had an incentives program, and literally from one day to the next, they pulled it. And
I remember that.
The truth is, they did not communicate with the projects. They let literally no one know it was going to happen. And you know what actually ended up happening was, like, you guys remember Scream? You know, he had gotten some incentives and market dumped them. And then after market dumping them, he said, "Oh, I won't do it again. I had to pay taxes." But then he turned around and did it again, which, you know, they didn't have any contracts or anything. So like that wasn't like not allowed, you know.
Yeah.
He hit the TVL, but also he was in some like private Discord servers, like kind of bad mouthing the foundation, and some of those screenshots made their way back. And so I think a lot of that played into why they pulled it. But the unfortunate truth is it was a royal mess up. Like they did not go about it in a way that supported their people. And so when that went down, like within a week, I had calls with John Morris, with Kong, with Barrick, with Sam, with literally anyone I could get to open their ears to me and say, listen, guys, you guys are messing this up. And you know, the truth is, like, there's very intelligent people at the head of Phantom whom I love and respect. Like I have no problems with any of them. I think they're awesome people. But there comes a time when you need to put somebody who's an expert on people at the head of an organization, not somebody who's an expert on code.
It's almost like multi-chain, like those random announcements. It's like, that's not how you do an announcement.
No.
Mm-hmm. And the tech was so good. Like had they really gone at it in a similar way to, like, you know, let's say Avalanche or Polygon, maybe at a smaller scale, they probably could have done a lot with it. But when so I was accumulating Phantom for a minute, but when Zhao Jun disappeared, the head of multi-chain, back in, I think it was June, but the routers still worked, that was it for me. I unfortunately had to sell like all of my Equal, because I held a bunch of Equal. Anything I had on the Phantom network, with the exception of some Oath, but it's not tied to Phantom specifically, I had to get rid of. And so that was it.
So with all of this stuff, right? I mean, we've asked a couple of the guests previously, but what is your full take on this? Like, what is your Phantom will make it or break it? Is it over for it? Like, are they going to come back from this? I mean, I have my thoughts. I think I don't want to disclose what they said, but
right. So we have a chat that I'm still an admin in, even though I don't own anything on the Phantom network, called Phantom Kings. It's been around for years, like since 2020. And Mike's in there, and you know, Sam and other guys, and we get to chat with them. And we were kind of in there war rooming with them while this was all going down. The assets from multi-chain aren't coming back. Nobody should expect anything to come back from that. Like they're doing their best, they're fighting, but you're dealing with the CCP. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're going to give any money back? No, they're not. And even if they did, it would go into let's say it went into an account, but now you've got lawyers digging through that who have to figure out tens of thousands of people. Like, it's not going to happen, right? So I don't think Phantom as a network will die, by any stretch of the imagination. But the only question that needs to be asked is, why would anyone build there? And right now, I don't know. Like, gas monetization, all right, that's kind of cool, but like
It's
the
so
biggest
cheap.
DApp on the network got like $250 last week. You know what I mean? Like, that's not doing anything. So, yeah. So that's my take. I think they'll survive, but that's it.
Did you ever invest in Harmony?
Dude, no. So the only so I did do an AMA with the DeFi Kingdoms guys. That's how I met Flu early on, old potty mouth Flu.
Is wild.
And he sent me like 51 token so that I could go try out DFK, and that was it. And now we actually have somebody who works on the Blockbytes staff, Mikey, who worked at Harmony. Yeah. He's still a validator there, but no, I never owned any there.
Well, the reason why I brought up Harmony is I invested in Harmony. I also did Phantom and whatever. You probably remember this with Phantom. Like, when you invested in Phantom, there was no DeFi. I remember you telling me this. There's no DeFi. There was no expectation with it. In fact, my thesis for investing in Phantom was they had all these different partnerships, and it would just come into some sort of like, because of the DAG technology. So I thought it would be partnered with the government or something, and something completely different came out of it. And that was the same thing for Harmony One and Luna. So I invested in Harmony One because I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like the payment network over in India. They had a bunch of partnerships over there as well. And that was my thesis on it. And then this was buying like, I don't know, it was like fractions of a penny. It was super cheap. I threw like $300 at it and it ballooned into like, it was like $20,000. So that's how low it was. But it was the reason why I'm making this point is I invested in it for one reason, and it ended up turning out to be a entirely different reason. Do you think the same thing could be happening here, to where it's like we're looking at Phantom like this is going to be a DeFi chain, but yet in the future it might be something that's like, hey, this is our new payment rail to get onto the crypto network because they're the only chain with a banking partnership type of thing. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I definitely have opinions here. I'll share them with you. So, with all the L2s and L1s out right now, like the narrative of fast and cheap doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does not work anymore. Tech will not speak for itself because you have so much competition. And that was their theme for a little while, is it's okay if the TVL goes down. The tech will eventually speak for itself. Let me tell you something. If you're processing a transaction for 20 cents and under a second, I don't care whose name is on that network as long as the yield is there. But that's something they don't have, is they don't have the yield, and I don't see them getting the yield back until like we get to the point to where, okay, this has kind of been forgotten about. Maybe they do some incentives again, maybe, but even so, like, dude, when that incentives program was going off, like it was popping off, but the second they removed it, like tons of projects just went, oh, we're not building there anymore. Like, we're out. That was really the only reason they wanted to be there.
I think incentives in a bear market, they are good, but like it's not the same as in a bull. Like, look at Kava,
Totally.
for example. Kava's getting roasted right now. I mean, not roasted, but it's not ballooning like it should. Like Equilibre and Mare, those are the main two things to do over there. They're the main games, and they're just getting roasted right now. But also you kind of have like the multi-chain issue. But over on like Optimism's really not doing awful. But it has that narrative of like, hey, it's an L2 and it rolls back onto Ethereum. So anyways, what are you looking at right now in the markets? I know you've recently been talking a little bit about Shimmer, but is that all you're looking at? Or
so I actually only own like 3 tokens, and one of them I'm not gonna share with you because I'm gonna be helping out with the team and it's kind of private and there's nothing to really announce yet. But the other 2 are one of them is Oath, right? I've always been a believer in Beavis and the Byte Masons, and Ethos Reserve is an excellent platform, and there is actually a really, really good plan of adoption behind the Earn stablecoin and like how that's going to roll back into the Oath token. I will tell you, I did not buy any grain. I just didn't see And I told them this. I didn't see any reason for it to exist. It's an incentives token. Why would I want to pre-sale
Well,
an
it does
incentives
exist.
token?
It's so you can dump.
Yeah, exactly. So it just didn't make any sense to me from that standpoint. So I didn't buy into it at all. But I think Oath has a lot of potential, especially like governance is never a great reason to buy a token ever. But like it is kind of evolving into it's going to have some governance, but the actual buybacks that can and will take place as a result of earn adoption. Because remember, with Ethos, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a fork of Liquidity, but it's got some other like adaptations to it where everything that's used as collateral, not everything, but a fairly high degree, like 50 or 60% of that is then taken and yield is earned on top of it, either through their own, compound fork, which is, or maybe it's Aave fork, I don't know, but Granary, or other safe places like, who knows, Curve, something like that.
Yeah.
But they're earning a yield on that, and they're using that yield to buy back Oath on the market. So the more adoption Earn gets, the more buybacks will happen over time, the more they hone these systems. They're pretty much automated under the hood.
So the more adoption Earn and Granary, or it's just, well, I guess
No.
Earn goes into Granary. So yeah.
So take Earn, for example, right? There's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 million minted, which means that, okay, so there's probably, if there's, let's say there's $6 or $7 million worth of collateral underlying that. And if they can use 50%, let's call it 3 million, right? So they're taking $3 million in either ETH, Wrap Bitcoin, or Optimism, because it's on the Optimism network. And they're plugging it into their own Aave, which is Granary. And they're earning 2-3%, whatever the case may be, right?
And then they take the Grain token. Like
they're probably doing that too.
They get people to loop and they juice the yield. So now they can juice how much they earn. They juice the buybacks on Oath.
Well, they can also, throw it into Reaper, who they might juice their own incentives there as well. I don't know. But what does end up happening is the profit on top of that is used to buy back the Oath token. Like they did a buyback recently. It was like $250,000, but it's tiny. So I say that to say this. As they bribe yields for Earn, right? Yeah. People are going to mint more Earn because they want to have it. And the more Earn that exists, the more collateral underneath it exists, the more that they're able to plug into their own platforms, the more yield they're able to generate from a USD standpoint, the more they can buy off the market, right? That's what I was
going to say. They need to bribe some of these VE33 dexes. I know I've seen them recently incentivizing some of the pools on Earn. It'll be interesting to see if they can get something rolling out like F-Bomb. F-Bomb, they have that like little tax system.
I love Dev. He's like one of my favorite people.
Dude, Fiery is a G. He's cool.
Yeah, he's the best.
So going back to Oath itself, we were kind of talking about this off screen with Beavis. What are your thoughts on Beavis? You like Beavis? You think he can achieve this? I know he was able to. He kind of showed not his cards. But he showed his capabilities and what he can do when we had that pump from like 5 cents to 30 cents. I feel like he's waiting in the background for a bull market to come around.
Yeah, so Beavis is extremely intelligent. Like I've been close to Beavis for a long time. We're partners in Blockbytes. Like I know JB quite well. And he's a very, very intelligent guy. And in the midst of that intelligence, he surrounds himself with intelligent people. And he's one thing I like about him is he does tend to keep an open mind. Like he's not completely looking for his way to be correct. Like do you understand what I'm saying? Like he lets intelligent people around him be intelligent and share those things with him. So like I think he's got a good thing going. And there's a lot of stuff that they keep kind of quiet that they don't share until it's ready. Like I know that there's going to be a tokenomics revamp coming up, and there's going to be a lot of other things happening. But the whole main gig right now is the more Earn you see on the market, the more Oath is getting bought up. And Oath is freaking bottomed out right now. Like absolutely bottomed out. Crazy. So, but yeah, I'm bullish on that. And I'm bullish on Beavis, man. He's just a solid dude. Like he's just great.
Smart
he's
guy.
Just an awesome guy. Love him to death.
So tell me about Shimmer.
Let's talk about Shimmy.
Dude, I got to hear about Shimmer because, like, I don't know. You were like, dude, Shimmer's going to be big. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. I remember you telling me about Phantom. And
let's chat about it.
What's the gig on Shimmer? Like,
so let me give you like, I'm going to give you like the kind of like how this thing came about, right? So when we were, last summer, so a year ago, I was like, okay, I can kind of see the writing on the wall with Phantom. We're going to have to either shut the channel down or rebrand it to something else. I can't keep doing the Phantom stuff. And so we took calls with every network, Optimism, Avalanche, Polygon, all of them. And then as we were doing this, like I got reached out to on Twitter by this guy, Dom. Now, I didn't know Dom. I didn't know who he was. I had never owned IOTA. Like I didn't know who he was, but he's like, hey, we're going to be launching this new DeFi ecosystem called Shimmer, using the IOTA backbone. Basically, it's going to be their test network. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's hop on a call and chat it out. And come to find out, Dom is like the chairman of IOTA Foundation. Like he's one of the original co-founders. Can you hear that vacuum going on in the background there?
No.
Oh, I thought that was my computer whirring.
Nah, dude, it's my housekeeper's like literally just showed up. So anyhow, so I get to chatting with Dom and like trying to understand what they're putting together. And I want to set the stage here because like a lot of this, I say to myself, well, I remember where Phantom was when they first launched. And it was a small team. They were recruiting developers. They didn't have a ton of money. Like, there was a lot to be desired and they still crushed, right?
Yeah.
In the last bull run. And so, the IOTA Foundation has been around. I think they've been together since like 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. They were a top 10 cryptocurrency in the 2017 bull run.
I remember.
And their main thing was they're like, we're going to create this Internet of Things, hence IOTA. This machine economy where they can talk to one another and blah, 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 blah. Smart cities in Dubai. I think a lot of them threw that narrative out there. And so, stepping back and looking at it, I think they were possibly ahead of their time. And they were also, the accounts that they wanted to get were like major top 100 businesses who move very slowly, if at all. They created a very, very cool network. Like they were, I think, the first directed acyclic graph DAG, right? Which is a different way of validating blocks, the same as Phantom is. And so, but the Internet of Things, just like they're still pursuing that. And I think they're going to be successful at it, but it was such a slow burn, And what happened in the interim while they were pursuing that is, DeFi summer happened in 2020. And now all these networks have smart contract capabilities. Yeah. And now tons of TVLs coming over and they're building. And it became quite apparent that, wait a sec, this is cool, but smart contracts are the place to be. Like you have to have the ability to execute, logic on chain.
Right.
And so, but IOTA itself actually does secure a fair amount of value. And so they couldn't just upgrade the whole network to add a smart contract layer on top of it without it being battle tested first.
Right.
So what they did, because the need to pivot became clear like a year and a half, 2 years ago, is they carbon copied what they call the Tangle, which is their DAG. It's their underlying consensus mechanism. And they essentially launched, for lack of a better term, kind of another IOTA, but it's not IOTA, it's Shimmer. And it's IOTA plus a whole ton of new stuff. Like they have, this, I'm talking about the layer one right now. So they have, specific UTXO types. So for instance, if I wanted to send you 10 shimmies, but if you didn't claim it in the next 48 hours, I wanted it to be returned back to me. You can put all of that right in the transaction, right? Within, I don't know exactly how it works.
Dude, that's awesome.
It has something to do with the UTXO. And there's various, like you can set a time lock. Like instead of having to use a smart contract to time lock your tokens, you can just do it right in the transaction. Like boom, put it there. It'll release in a year, right? So this is the layer one. The layer one to transact is free. There's no gas whatsoever. There is what's called a storage deposit. So depending on the amount of data you're holding in your wallet, there will be a small amount of Shimmer that's temporarily locked up. So for instance, if you're holding like 20 NFTs, maybe like 2 or 3 Shimmer will need to be temporarily locked up as your storage deposit. But then once you get rid of those NFTs, you sell them to somebody or whatever, that shimmy gets released back to you. Okay. So that's the layer one, which is great. The layer one does not have smart contract capabilities. Now, it does have the ability to launch tokens, which what that means is that every single token on the layer one is considered a base network token, the same as like Ethereum would be or Phantom would be, meaning it's not running through an ERC20 contract.
Right.
But that also means it can't be frozen. you know what I mean? You get all the benefits of being like a first class citizen in that.
Yeah.
So how do we get the smart contracts in play? So basically the way that Shimmer is set up is that it is set up to handle a ton of layer twos. Okay. And the layer twos are going to be your smart contract chains. Now, what's really neat about this is they're virtual machine agnostic. They're coding language agnostic. So they're going to be launching the Shimmer EVM here pretty soon as kind of a proof of concept. And that's going to be coming out with, let's see, there's going to be 2 UniV2 dexes. There's going to be 1 concentrated liquidity dex. There's going to be liquidity out the gate. There's going to be compound out the gate. There's going to be balancers coming very, very soon, right? So the DeFi ecosystem, the actual like infrastructure of it is going to be there, like the day that they launch. That's going to be the EVM chain that we're all, going to go play and do DeFi on.
And it's sort of like MetaMask or Ravi, right?
It's exactly the same way you interact with every other chain. However, the actual layer 1, I would say, probably has the ability to handle somewhere in the realm of like 600 or 700 layer 2s on top of it. So it's future-proofed in such a way that if somebody wanted to come and use the WebAssembly virtual machine like Cosmos uses, or you wanted to have your smart contracts coded in Rust or Go, or maybe some future language that doesn't exist yet, they've built the network in such a way that layer 2s are completely customizable. Now, what's cool about this is every single layer 2 is required to use the Shimmer token as gas. And every time they sync that data back to the layer 1, they sync the state back to the layer 1, that's increasing the storage deposit, because the more data they have to store on layer 1, the more storage deposit they have to have, right? They have to put more and more Shimmer on there. So this is, it's really interesting in like the way that they've set it up. But like, again, tech is not going to win the game. You've got to have reasons for people to bridge. If people don't have reasons to bridge, what the hell are they doing, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's
what I was going to say. What's the catalyst for it?
Well, here's the catalyst. IOTA's been around since 2015. They have active probably 10,000 active people in IOTA right now. So it's got an inbuilt network ready to support as soon as it launches. IOTA Foundation is not small. There's like 90 people in the IOTA Foundation, multiple PhDs. Like, they're very, very intelligent, but they have ran into issues with their execution, with their timing of their, actually getting stuff out on time. There's a bit of a centralization issue that still exists over on IOTA, using something called a coordinator. And so they've had this thing called Coordicide, which is like, the coordinator homicide, that has, they've been promising for a number of years. It hasn't happened. But so they're relating Shimmer to, like, if anyone remembers Kusama for the Polkadot network, right? They were kind of like a staging network. Same type of deal. But I don't want anyone to get like caught up on, well, if this is just a staging network, it's not really where the value is. They're putting all of their efforts towards ensuring that Shimmer is like a top 10 DeFi ecosystem. Like, they're throwing everything they've got at it. They got
money to do it too.
They've got money to do it. They've got contacts to do it. And they've got an inbuilt community that, like, when this launches and starts cranking, they're ready to rock. And what's cool about this for me is a lot of these folks have held IOTA for years and years and years. They did not experience, but you learned DeFi, right? Like, a lot of these folks didn't learn DeFi. They don't understand like how to collateralize your assets, mint a stable coin, farm it, earn yield, you know what I mean? Repay it with the yield, things like that, strategies that people like we understand, but they may not. And so for me, as a guy that like creates content, this is prime pickings. Like, this is like, I really have an opportunity to connect with these people.
It's a fresh layer 1 too.
New narrative. Exactly, dude. I'm a big believer. I wasn't always, but like, I am a big believer that, most of these coins are going to get their one good narrative run, and they may or may not come back after that, unless they've done something real significant. So Shimmer's got its narrative run ahead of it, and it's very, very, very close to launching. Nobody knows about it yet. It's sitting at about a $90 million market cap. And once it actually does launch and starts cranking, I think, sky's the limit, man. I sure as hell see it being more than $1 billion market cap.
Oh, it looks like you got to go on like Bitfinex and Bitforex. I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Is there
obscure.
another spot? OTC?
No, for right now, so on Bit4X, it's no KYC, like straight up, CCP owned. I don't know if it's CCP owned. That may not be true. But like it seems kind of dodgy. Dude, I accumulated a ton of Shimmer using Bit4X. Like the support has been phenomenal. Like I cannot shout them out enough. I wouldn't leave anything on the exchange. But to just like buy and
what
withdraw
wallet
to your wallet.
Use?
All right. So here's the rub. There's no EVM chain yet.
Okay.
Soon it'll all be MetaMask and Rabby and Coinbase Wallet, whatever you want to use. But for right now, you have to use something called the Firefly wallet, which is what interacts with the layer one.
That.
So it's firefly.iota.org.
I think I have some Shimmer right now because I staked it because they were like, yeah, you get an airdrop.
You staked your IOTA and they airdropped you Shimmy as a result.
Yeah, Shimmy and some random other token.
So that's another thing that like this is really interesting in the way that they did this. 100% of the Shimmer supply is on market at launch. There's no emissions. There's no like team lockups that are going to come out in a year and a half. They airdropped it all to IOTA stakers, which means there's no native sell pressure to be found. It's completely distributed, right? It's one of the most well-distributed tokens you'll find, which is cool. It's kind of how they inbuilt that community to get them involved in Shimmer.
It's actually pretty cool because, I think you're really staying true to your finding the diamond in the rough type of plays, right? You did this with Phantom, right? And I don't think I've heard of Phantom until I was like scouring, YouTube, and I found your channel. But it's actually pretty cool that you're still sticking to your guns, and you're not following it doesn't seem like you're following the Coinbase and the Base network, and as well as the Mantle network ecosystems at this point, right? Or are you dabbling?
I mean, I got my eyes on Base just because I think it's going to be really positive for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything on there, but like the reason that Shimmy is like we only have one sponsor of our channel, and it's Shimmer. I'm gonna be doing a show called Shimmer Live, which is going to be the equivalent of the old Phantom Unchained. We're gonna get on, we're gonna gossip, we're gonna talk about the new shit stuff. Sorry guys, sorry. And trying to keep it PG. And but we're in an interesting time right now where the only people that know about it are the IOTA community. They were airdropped it, right? And so anyone that wanted to sell it on market has probably already sold it. The world doesn't know about it yet because we don't have a DeFi chain for them to play on. And we're just in that gap right now, that gap. And that gap it's been going on for a little while, like 6 to 9 months. They did a testnet campaign. They said, come on and break stuff. At a couple days with like 1 million plus transactions, which was really good because it stress tested the network. But it was all bots because it was free. It was a testnet, right? So they were just spamming the heck out of it. But like I've been testing on testnet like almost every single day. It's instant, like it's a beautiful experience. And when that goes live, like, do you guys remember when Phantom first launched? Like what we actually had? We had multi-chain to bridge. We had Sushi Swap, which is where all the S coins were launching. And like we had a few meme coins, and then eventually we got Spooky, and then we got Spirit, and then we didn't even get a compound fork, which was Scream, until it took like 3 months for us to get that. This is all coming right out of the gate. The whole infrastructure is launching with it.
That's pretty crazy.
Ready to roll.
Launching fast.
The incentives that are going to be available on that chain for people that hold the Shimmer token, like you can go collateralize it. They have a liquidity fork, so you can collateralize it, mint a token that's going to be called VUSD. It's going to be Virtue is the name of the platform. Take that VUSD, throw it in the stability pool, maybe earn 20%, or take that and like go stable farm, or like buy more Shimmer and lever up, whatever you want to do. But there's going to be yield out the yin yang for people that know where to look. And that gets me excited. And the greatest part about that yield is I don't have to sell my Shimmy. I can collateralize it.
That's true.
And use that as a result,
It looks like they have 2 Firefly wallets because I just looked,
Yes.
and I guess I was looking at the first one. I was like, man, I got nothing. Where did my IOTA go? And then I opened up the second one, and I got some like assembly token, and I got 1,200 SMR tokens, man.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It was just a random airdrop, but that's pretty cool.
Sniff's asking about where to buy Shimmer again. There's no KYC.
Yeah, so Sniff, if you want no KYC right now until EVM launches, bit4x.com. And the way that I did that, because it really felt like Cryptopia to me, if anyone remembers Cryptopia, back in the day, like I would send like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 max at a time, buy my Shimmer, withdraw it off the exchange, and then do it again, right? And that's how I got my bag.
This would help. I'll do a screen share so you guys can see it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, anyone that's not in the US, Bitfinex is great.
Yeah, sorry, I have to go to an appointment, but I'm sorry, Austin. Sorry.
Do your thing, Abs. It was great chatting with you, buddy.
You as well.
We'll work on those abs, man.
I will. I mean, probably not, but I'll talk to
you. For everyone like kind of viewing, this is where you can actually check like Shimmer and whatnot and find out where to go on the exchanges. I usually use CoinGecko, but you can see here you got Bitfinex, and Bit4x. And this is what Bit4x looks like. Mm-hmm. It's just some regular exchange, but like Austin said, it's no KYC. I didn't say that. I was just repeating what he said. But yeah, no, like this.
No, it is. It's a no KYC exchange. And like Mike Bennett, for your question, so right now the only SMR that's on the market is the layer 1 SMR, right? And so the only way to interact with the layer 1 is you got to go to firefly.iota.org, and there's 2 Firefly wallets, and you have to pick the one that says Shimmer. Now, what's interesting about this, and I know I'm being chatty, but I'm like, I love Shimmer, is when multiple layer 2s launch, there's no bridges needed to get between the 2 of them, right? So the Shimmer layer 1 network is the bridge. So like if there's an EVM chain and there's like a Wasm chain and there's another EVM chain that was launched by, let's say, a big project like DFK we mentioned earlier, they needed their own layer 2, right? To go from one to the other, just think of like the Shimmer layer 1 as kind of like your I-95, right? It connects all of them. You don't need an actual bridge. You can move from the layer 2 to the layer 1 to another layer 2 very, very simply without paying fees, without having to jump through a bridge, no bridge risk, etc.
Yeah, I was trying to share it so you guys can see it. I was trying to share the wallet that I just randomly had these tokens so you guys can see what it looks like. But it's pretty cool. Just make sure you download like the Firefly 2. So like the second one.
The one for Shimmer.
But question, what is the ASMB?
So assembly network. So that's going to, I haven't really gotten into assembly much, mainly because it's like, I think it's way, way out. But it's supposedly like their most decentralized solution that will be coming in the future. Right now on the short term, it's get Shimmy up and running, get the smart contract layers, cranking, get the DeFi ecosystem going. And then once we're sure that works, port that over to the IOTA network so that IOTA can have that functionality. And then, kind of the thinking is, no, you do not need to own IOTA to hold Shimmer. Okay. I don't own any IOTA. But kind of the thinking is like, and I don't know if this will actually happen that way, but the thinking is like, you'll have more of your institutional stuff happening on the main IOTA chain. You'll have more of your DeFi degen stuff happening on Shimmer. At least that's kind of like the narrative they've been putting out. We'll see how it actually happens in practice. But so there's a lot of execution risk. You got to understand, like there is major execution risk, but like from my perspective, from what I've seen, from the community that is inbuilt, from the projects that I know are launching on day one, from the massive IOTA Foundation, which has very, very, very smart people working on it. Yeah. And they're staking like their whole future on Shimmer being a success. Like they're throwing everything they've got at this. So for me, that's a good risk reward bet, seeing that it's sitting at like $100 million market cap right now, which I
agree. So there's going to be no additional inflation or
no. 100% of the supply was airdropped to people that staked IOTA. And so like if you pull up CoinGecko again, you're going to see circulating supply and max supply. The delta are the unclaimed tokens.
So how do they incentivize people to use the chain? Or are they going to?
Well, so they do have they have treasuries.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two treasuries. There's the Tangle Ecosystem Association Treasury, which is basically the IOTA Foundation, and then there's the Tangle Community Treasury, which like I think they gave them like 30 million shimmies or something, and it's ran by the community to give grants to projects building on shimmy for stuff that they need. Right. And so that's kind of, and that guy who runs that, his name's JD Sutton. He's on our Twitter spaces every Monday. He comes on and chats, and like there's a big VC development group. I don't know if you'd call them VCs, but anyhow, they go by the name of Nakama. So nakama.io is their website, and they're building Virtue, which is the liquidity fork. They're building what the heck else? They have the Compound fork, which is deeper finance. They have a Beefy fork, which is accumulator that's launching. They have they're the ones that will be, I think, fairly soon having like a balancer as well. Like they're putting infrastructure down for like, and for a guy like me, this is like DeFi strategies. You know, we're gonna rock on this. So it's just very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, they got this cool article on Bitfinex. This kind of shows like the token breakdown. This is like the Tangle Ecosystem Community DAO, and I guess 80% was basically just airdropped to IOTA peeps. So that's pretty sweet. Yeah. And like you were saying with IOTA, it was kind of like back in the day. I feel like we're going to have like a comeback narrative with the AI stuff and Internet of Things, like with cars and vehicles and all these people paying things. I feel like IOTA will even catch a bit on top of that. It'll be interesting to see. Patrick just jumped in on the background. I'm going to allow him in. Patrick, what's up, man?
Patrick, hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going? I know I'm here at the tail end, but
nah, you're good.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
See you, Austin.
Great to meet you in person, man. I followed you for a while. Great to finally meet you.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit about Shimmer right now.
Shimmer,
but you heard about Shimmer any?
No, I haven't heard.
I'm telling you, Drake, nobody's heard about it yet. They will, but we're in that gap.
Never heard of it.
So Shimmer is the new EVM chain that's being launched by the IOTA Foundation as kind of like their staging network for putting smart contracts on the main network.
I'll drop you a link.
That's the TLDR. We just talked about it for a half hour, though. So I don't want to bore everyone that's watching.
I just dropped it to you in the private so you can take a look at it, Patrick.
Interesting. I see you previously posted my Twitter on the private chat. What is Shimmer? There we go. Interesting. Now, do you have any? Okay, if you already addressed this, just tell me. But do you have any concerns with the fact that I feel like other, say, old school chains that have launched their own EVM networks, Filecoin, for example? I feel like I feel like Icon maybe did that as well. They haven't really gained a lot of traction.
Yeah, so there's a lot of execution risk. You could not talk about it without saying there's definite execution risk. They are coming out the gate. Like the IOTA community is big. They've been around since 2015. A lot of these guys have been holding since 2017. So there's like I conservatively estimate 10,000 people, but like if you go into their Discord and kind of like try and pull some numbers, it's north of that.
Really?
And so at launch, we've got liquidity, we've got 2 Uni V2s, we've got concentrated liquidity, we've got Compound, Beefy, Balancer is on the way. And these are all forks that are, made by third parties, but like some infrastructure is there right out the gate, which is great, which is, just having been through the whole Phantom scene, watching it go up and down, like it took us months to get any type of DeFi infrastructure on Phantom. Like it took a while, so they're coming right out the gate. And the whole IOTA Foundation, they're like staking their entire future on Shimmer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they did not put smart contracts on their network. And they missed all of it. Like they were focused more on Internet of Things. And so they realized that 2 years ago and they went, oh crap, we screwed up. But they can't just implement it right on the main network. So that's where Shimmy comes in. And it's
what if you have a rotator out of layer ones into Internet of Things?
That would be ironic.
Is IOTA
could
still
happen.
a thing? IOTA
Yeah,
still
yeah.
a thing though?
They're still pursuing that. I mean, like they have
Okay.
big contracts, like they're working with the UAE and they're doing all this stuff, but it's like trying to turn the Titanic, you know what I mean? Like these big companies getting them to implement this IoT stuff is like, and how does it even translate to the IOTA token at the end of the day? Like I don't really know.
I know I'm not the only one that did this in the past bull run. Patrick, I know you would have. I don't know. I'm just assuming, but I bought coins that I had a thesis on, and I believe they would do this, and this, and they ended up outperforming the market because they did an entirely different thing. What about you, Patrick? Did you ever have some coins that happened for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, one that kind of jumps out. I don't know if they did something different, but is VeChain did pretty well for a while. And it really, I don't know exactly why. I think it had a lot more to just being pumped by various groups, but it definitely wasn't because everyone in China was using VeChain. It was not due to my original thesis.
I remember though, like back in 2017, 2018, this is back when they were doing the tokenomics change, right? They were going up like 100 to 1 or something.
Yeah.
Sonny was always on Twitter every day, like pumping the heck out of it. And I don't know how many people actually ended up using VeChain, but like the was it VeThor? The thing that you could see, right? Yeah. That was like a huge narrative.
That was the oil
back before DeFi. Yeah, dude. There was a lot there, that gave it that narrative.
Yeah, I thought of another one actually. Luna.
Yes.
It's a bad name now. So I bought a lot of that in mid 2021 after the crash, and my thesis was actually their Mirror protocol. My thesis was you'll be able to yield farm by providing liquidity for stocks, just like you can yield farm DeFi, and that's going to bring more serious people in, and it's like a new financial primitive. Even when it was at its peak, Mirror never really took off. But Luna, I think my average buy-in was like $4 or something. Obviously, it's way lower now because it's zero. But I cashed out like decently high, 60 or 70 for what it was. And you know why I cashed out? 2 reasons. One, I did a post about it, and then I was getting all this like not backlash, like all these reply guys sort of insulting me from the Terra community who were saying that I was like not being bullish enough. And it was a positive thing I said. And that's like number one red flag for me.
Top signal.
Right? That's very much top signal.
You ever get those top signals?
The other thing was Do Kwon did some sort of interview, and then he insulted Americans, and I was like, all right, screw this. I don't want to hold this guy's coin. Yes, it's petty, but it worked out.
I don't know, man. If I see a savior being raised up, like we've had so many of them, Do Kwon, Andre, Danny, like, and none of them ended well. Like every time I see a savior being raised up, it's like you might have a wave to ride here, but don't marry it,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Awesome, but tell me about yourself, man. Like what you've been up to outside of crypto.
Dude, so we had a new baby. So I have 4 kids, 12, 9, 3, and 6 months, almost 6 months. So we had a new baby at the end of February. And honestly, like we've been building Blockbytes. I've been taking a step back. Like I've done this for a couple of years. I've always done it just because it was interesting to me. Like I've literally never once taken a paycheck from any of it. And so to me, like for a while, it totally made sense for me to just, do the content and like really dive into it. But once my son was born, like the price that my time is worth to me skyrocketed, because now I've got a little one in the house who's not going to school during the day. And, like I'm actually taking away from that at certain times. And so I've started to like pull back, and Drake and I were talking about this at the beginning. Like, I'm really looking for like less spotlight at this point, and like let other people, go and do it. Cause it's been a wonderful journey. Like I've gotten to meet some really, really amazing, beautiful people, and I've learned a ton. And I think, getting to do content for Shimmer will be amazing because I'll get to like reinvigorate that educational side that was so fun during Phantom. But But for right now, like, my focus is on being a good dad and like figuring out like what is super important to me as a human being outside of cryptocurrency, So that's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I don't have any kids to be able to understand that feeling, but I do. I mean, I have a pet. I kind of understand like that, like responsibility, but maybe not like educating and teaching them. I guess it's a little bit different. But yeah, dude, that's
Congratulations.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it, buddy.
That's for sure. 4 kids, man, that's big.
It's a lot. Tough. Well, so my older two are with my ex-wife half the week, and then they're back with us during the school days because they attend school over by my house. So, but it's been. I mean, dude, we're very like blessed, dude. Like Phantom, for all of its faults, like I did cash out a lot, and I got to buy a house, and like I don't have a college degree. Like for a guy like me to own their home and to be able to provide for their family when I really on paper like I have no reasons to be able to do that. Like I have eternal gratitude for that, like always,
That's kind of a question I like to ask people is what made you cash out and what was like, hey, I need to take profits? Because like for me, for example, there's a lot of times like I'll look at a coin and I'm like, it's up 1,000x. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep holding. Like what are your levels to where it's like, dude, you need to chill and take.
Dude, that's such a great question. And like when I'm not in the rat race of it, like the sober decision making of me says, is there more upside than downside right now? And if that is skewed, then it's probably time to walk away. Patrick, you had a great explanation about picking up on red flags, but like when I bought my house and sold Phantom for that, I think I sold that at like 80 cents. It still did another 3x, but because I bought it at a half a penny, I 100x'd that, like, regardless of how much further it's going to go. And a lot, believe it or not, a lot of the profit that I took was like, there were months in there where the farming rewards were out of control, like 6-figure a week farming rewards. And so that a lot of the profit was coming from that as well. I, paid taxes, like didn't end up screwing myself there. Thank God. And now I'm just, I'm ready for the next one. Ready for the next run, Bubba.
6-figure farming rewards. What does that look like? Like,
dude, what it looks like
on the other side? Is that like locking $1 million worth of spirit, locking $1 million of equal? Like, what does that look like?
Well, part of what that looked like was, remember when Popsicle Finance got hacked, like early on, and ICE went down to like sub $1, which I think it may be sub $1 right now.
I do remember that. Yeah,
but it had a run from like $1 to 60.
Yeah.
And, I was selling along the way, but I put a bunch in like at $1. And I was selling along the way and then rolling it into Phantom. And then kind of like, because I didn't want to like hurt the market, I wanted it to sell on the way up. And so I would LP it. But dude, those farming rewards were like ridiculous. And then Liquid Driver was just straight up printing for a while. And then Beethoven was printing. And it was just kind of nuts. And honestly, like, looking back on it, I can't honestly tell you if after all the farming and all of that happy stuff, if I came out better than I would have by just holding and selling. I can't honestly tell you that I did, with the rebalancing and everything that went on. So I can't. And so my strategy for this time is different. Like I want the long-term capital gains, right? I want to hold longer than a year. So I will be collateralizing my shimmer, minting a stable coin, and then using that to farm and repaying with the profits, catching more upside than the interest rate is, So that's kind of going to be my strategy now.
So will you try to manage that position, or are you just going to be like, hey, if it liquidates at 3 cents, 2 cents, whatever, I'm out? Like I got
definitely. I'll definitely be managing that position. Like okay. I'm sure my LTV will not be higher than 50% or no, I'm saying that I'm saying that incorrectly. Probably 150% or 200% is what I'm saying, right? I've got it on the flip side. I won't be collateralizing it up to the gills. And I'll very likely be doing so near the bottom of a run. because that's a very illiquid token. Like it's, if they got $1 million in like genuine volume in a day, it would 2x. Like it's a very illiquid token. It was very hard for me to accumulate that. I had to play with bots and like all sorts of stuff to be able to accumulate Shimmer. It was difficult. And so, yeah, I think it's got high upside. Even if they do okay, even if people look at it and go, yeah, that's an okay network, it's still got upside, as money flows back into the market. Like at some point, $1 billion market cap for a layer 1 with layer 2 capabilities is like, you failed, if that's as far as you get, in my opinion, So
outside of Shimmer and Oath, what else are you looking at? You got to be looking at some of these L2s, or at least something that rolls up to the Ethereum chain.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like when I was bouncing around all the Solidly forks, and I had a lot of Solidly forks running and farming and everything else. Then I was playing around obviously on Optimism and Arbitrum and like, I think Base is very, very interesting. I'll probably like dig into it. I don't know if I'll move any assets over there, but I just feel like, Base is an interesting track for DeFi adoption. And I think like it could, there's tons of people, like take my in-laws, for example, who own tokens. And when they buy them, they just leave them on Coinbase. Like, they don't know how to like bridge or like to even, do any of that stuff. So the fact that there's Coinbase wallet and you can just like kind of pop it right into your wallet and now go do DeFi. Like, I feel like there's a lot there. Not, it's yet to be seen, but I do think like there's a lot there.
Interesting. Okay. So do you think like it's going to be like the Binance Smart Chain moment for Coinbase? And is Coinbase just going to be running the bridge like on the back end? I know they have like third-party bridges, but I'm saying like if I'm on Coinbase and I say, hey, I'm withdrawing to Base Chain, is that bridge just running straight through Coinbase, kind of like Binance and Binance Smart Chain?
Great question. I would imagine so. Like you can move money to Coinbase wallet very easily. So I'd imagine like Base is integrated. You just need to switch networks, right? John Steps, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. You can just port straight there, switch to the network, and rock and roll with it. It's going to take a lot of education. There's always going to be education. Like my 70-year-old in-laws, like walking them through setting up MetaMask and connecting to a DApp and like even understanding the concept of liquidity provision is like so much. My mom still calls Bitcoin shares. You know what I mean? Like it's $20,000-$30,000 a share. That seems expensive. I'm like, I told her one time, she's like talking to a rotary dial phone. She's like,
oh geez, dude.
But it's just another portal. It's just another portal. And honestly, if we get these ETFs like that, I think people underestimate a lot what those structured products can actually do for our market, making them like compliant and everything else.
Yeah, I remember the ETFs for some of the altcoins like Filecoin, LivePeer. They pumped like giga pumped because
they had were just spot ETFs, or were they the Grayscale?
It was Grayscale. It was the Grayscale.
Yeah, so those weren't ETFs.
Yeah, those were true. That's true. So it was more so like the Grayscale trust and like, oh, they're accumulating this, and it was all a bull market, so everyone was like FOMOing into all these coins. And I remember it, man. I was watching like Ivan on Tech and go.
Yeah,
that was fun, dude. Those were the days.
Those are great days.
Yeah, he had all the live streams and everything. That was fun. But I want to go back to the Solidly forks. You made a comment on that.
Sure.
So how did you get out of those? Did you just sell your VE NFT position, or like what was it? What was your, hey, I need to get out type of thing?
Yeah. So during the Phantom, we'll call it bull run and subsequent, dip, I became very close to a ton of teams and like, the Beethoven guys and the Spirit Swap guys and all of those guys. And I'm like, I just love their projects. I love them. These. I love what they're doing. And so there was a lot of like accumulation that happened of tokens. And this is, my own ignorance. What I found myself was with big old bags that looked great in notional value, and good luck trying to exit. And, like when I decided to exit my Spirit bags, I had to do so over the course of like, 2 weeks. Otherwise I was going to, disrupt the market. And I didn't want to do that. And so I made a promise to myself that I won't be holding big bags of anything that I cannot exit on a whim if I decide to. Right. So Shimmy is going to be all over centralized exchanges. That'll be no problem. Oath is a little bit more difficult. And that's kind of a remnant of an old time. And so, but I do believe in Beavis. And so like if I needed to, do some exiting there. So I got rid of all of my like exchange, my DEX bags that I was holding and things of that nature. And with that came the solidly forks. Like I was a big holder of like Liquid Driver and Oath. And if you held them, they were great to farm with for a while because they were bribing on Thena and they were bribing on Velodrome and they're bribing even on Kava, on Equilibre. We had some LQDR farming rewards that happened. And those were all good and well. And like, they were wonderful for a time until I just started realizing I don't, it just didn't make sense for me to continue to do that anymore. And so I started exiting positions pretty rapidly once I realized that I just kind of wanted peace, man. Like that was really what it was. I've got kid number 4 now. I want to sleep better at night. I don't want to be so involved in managing positions. And right now I'm farming literally nothing with the exception of some locked LQDR from back in the day years ago.
So with those tokens, do you recommend, or what do you think would have performed best? Is it playing the game and max locking and getting the yield, or is it holding the token and just like waiting for a giga pump and exiting?
That's a really cool question that like I think is probably different for each of them. Like if you were a day one locker for Velodrome, you crushed, you cashed in. Like if you were a day one locker for Thena, you're still crushing. You're still cashing in because the bribes are all there. Retro is yet to be seen. Their initial Satin launch didn't go great. And, unfortunately Equalizer, as much as I love that team, and I love that team. They're so great, but they are tied to the success of the Phantom network. There's no two ways about that, Yeah.
You think they're going to be able to kick out of it, or?
I hope so. I truly do. I know that they've got their new Axelar stables and who the hell else? Maybe Wormhole is porting through. I forget exactly who's bridging in. But eventually over time, like as they filter out the multi-chain assets that wrecked everyone and everything returns back to a normal price, then maybe quite possibly they can get some volume going back again. But I keep asking myself, who's going to build on that network and why would they?
I think right now, I don't know. Smart. I think it would be smart for Phantom to, just like Optimism did with Velodrome, I think it would be smart for Phantom to get buddy with Equalizer. Not like that, like just show favorites, but run like a system through them. Then you can use that as bribes on the chain and basically have that as like the quote unquote water cooler. So like for me to learn about new tokens on Optimism, when I vote every week, I go to Velodrome and I'm like, what's this coin? Or what's this coin? And you're like, you check it out. So it's a way for people to have like a liquidity hub as well as a way for marketing. So I think it would be a good idea for Phantom to leverage that to their benefit. And then obviously have the on-chain gas monetization to drive revenue back to any of these other protocols to incentivize them and allow them to keep rolling out. But yeah, I agree. There's some rebuilding that needs done. Speaking of one of the projects on there on Phantom, you kind of made a hint at it, is Beats. I love that team. I love what those guys are doing.
Love them.
But like you said, I wouldn't say they're tied to Phantom now that they also have Optimism. But what are your thoughts on Beats?
The thing is, so all right, having balancers wonderful. Like you do have so much customizability with the pools, and like if it gets good volume, people will be earning some yield, but they're also at the tail end of not the tail end, but the emissions are low. And like I think kind of the thinking was early on, we do these tokenomics models, and as emissions taper off, price will increase to support it in US dollar terms.
Right.
But now it's all bottomed out and emissions are tapering off and like the yields are non-existent. So I don't even know how much liquidity is left on Phantom. I don't think it's much. Like, So if they're really truly tied to that network, there's no volume. I haven't like just for kicks. I'm going to pull up the Beethoven.
I was looking at
website.
total TVL and Phantom earlier today, coincidentally, because I was like, oh, it's not in the top 10 anymore. I wonder where it is, and it's ranked 28 now.
Wow.
It's down to 75 million total.
So the 24-hour volume on Beethoven is $230,000. That's it. The TVL is under 10 million, and like some of that's going to be the Beats token itself. Like, so honestly, like in my personal opinion, so you've got the Phantom team. They're very, very smart, but they're also like, I would call them an echo chamber. Hopefully that doesn't get taken wrong. But I think until somebody from the outside comes in and is actually given the keys to say, okay, fix this with new eyes, with a new perspective, I don't think anything's going to get done. Because I think the same narratives are going to keep getting parroted until like somebody takes their hands off and says, okay, come and do something with this, and that's somebody, maybe Andre. It's Andre, actually, and not maybe. It is Andre. That's, who has the keys to the kingdom over there. So I think it'll, they have some good ideas. Like this gas monetization thing's kind of a good idea. And like they have the community something or other treasury. But
I think really what they need is just a good game. Like Tomb Finance. I mean, yeah, some people were saying like it's a parasite on Phantom, etc. But I think that's really what gave Phantom its show to fame. Like everyone came over there for Tomb, period, because they loved it. And then Solidly was a interesting model. It just had some hiccups and tweaks, which came from Andre. And same thing with Urine Finance. But I think it just launched at the wrong time and it had too many hiccups and had way too much hype. All that drama with Danny and Andre and all that garbage. But just seeing like the success of Velodrome and what they did, incentivizing it with the OP token and throughout a bear market, the highly inflationary token, I just would love to see the Solidly model in a true bull market. It was one of the outperformers when Bitcoin went from 15K to what was it, like 28, 29K. The Solidly tokens, the DEXs, those things are doing multiples. Like Sliz did like that thing was like a 200x. Do you remember Sliz?
Oh, Sliz, are they still around? Did they?
No, dude, they
died,
roasted.
Right?
They needed to fix their fees,
okay.
and I was like, dude, fix your fees, you're losing vol. And they were just like, no, we're good. And I'm like, all right, whatever. See ya.
I think Thena's going to be a big winner, and Velo. I think both of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like they haven't even seen a bull market, but seeing what they do in a bull market, it's just like nuts how these things go. And I just feel like
put some numbers to that. From January to March, the total Solidly fork TVL went from 100 million to 800 million in that little mini bull market we had.
Yeah.
Not even a bull market, that mini bullish uptrend we had, they 8x'd.
And we what we only had like 5 forks at that time.
Something. But it's all tied in. The APRs increase as the token price increases, as more liquidity comes in, then more people are bribing, and there is a little flywheel effect that happens there. People want to lock, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I have just like really taken I'm just going to go ahead and watch, and I'm going to cheer these guys on and really hope they do well. And I'm not going to have any financial incentive tied to any real like individual projects. I really want to bet on, bigger networks and more liquid tokens at this stage of the game, personally.
So what about narrative? Have you heard about the RWA narrative?
The real world assets, like tokenizing. Yeah. And who knows, dude? That could be massive. But if there's a reason for it to happen, right? The reason can't just be like, it has to be more convenient for people to use tokenized RWAs as opposed to like, in my opinion,
the reason, or at least the thesis I've heard several times, is tokenizing treasury bills, or at least any of these bonds and whatnot, and being able to get this yield from the government instead of just like these different yields that are coming out in DeFi that are not sustainable. because they're just coming from a highly inflationary token. Now, yeah, the dollar is just inflating away, but you also have the power of the U.S. government kind of backing it and allow them to do that garbage. But any thoughts on like that being the baseline yield for DeFi?
Yeah, I think that would be huge. So when you say real world assets, I think like tokenizing a Rolex or putting your house on chain with NFT ownership. You know what I mean? When it comes to T-bills, especially because like a lot of people, myself included, like started to learn about how they work because the yields started going absolutely bonkers. And I do anticipate that those yields are going to go down to poo poo pee pee again at some point. But they got a lot of publicity probably among the DeFi crowd. At least they did from me. So I think that would be rad.
They have some interesting protocols out there. The first one is Maker. Obviously, you probably already know about MakerDAO. Most people do. They are tokenizing treasury bills, and they're giving out the yields to DAI peeps who I think it's in the stability pool or something like that.
Is that the 8%?
Yeah,
yield that
yes,
Americans and VPN people can't use. I saw that the other day.
But now there's also some other ones like different concepts like Pearl 5. It's a 3-3 DEX that's kind of using the infrastructure of the USDR stablecoin. This USDR stablecoin is from Tangible, and it's like 20 to 25% yield paid out from rentals. So they are tokenizing real estate, and they're tokenizing the rent, like the rent roll that comes in. I had some concerns with it, and I asked them some questions on it. And kind of what they use is like an insurance and a buffer is like when the times are good, when the houses are sitting full, they're going to take out like 20, 30% of that rental income and set it on the side. That way they can give this dependable yield. So like houses sit vacant, like in real estate, if you can't find a tenant, it sits vacant and you aren't bringing any revenue. And they use that as kind of like the buffer for it. But I just think it's an interesting concept of what Tangible will be able to do with something like that. And I definitely think RWAs are going to be something that makes an impact on the crypto market. I mean, just thinking about it, it's like the reason people buy Bitcoin is quote unquote digital gold. So it's basically tokenized gold. Now it's not tokenized gold in that aspect, but the point is people want tangible stuff or what they already get easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to Bitcoin, I mean, the narrative for me or the selling point for me is like there's no middleman standing in between me and my ability to sell or send, maybe sell, but to send that money to anyone, right? If I want to go send a bank wire, 9 times out of 10, they want to know what am I wiring for? Like, who am I wiring to? Like, give me their home address and, a blood sample. And so for me, like to actually own that, to have true ownership of it, as opposed to in a bank, like that's a big narrative for me. When it comes to the real world assets, that system is working. You know what I mean? And if you own a house, like if it hopefully will inflate at the rate of or higher than the rate of inflation, is kind of the hope. It should appreciate in the same way. So I don't know if it has that same narrative necessarily, or what makes it better or more convenient.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to throw in. So first, after a couple of weeks ago, I think Drake and I were sort of having some questions about Tangible on this podcast, and they reached out to us afterwards with answers. So I was pretty impressed by that. Yeah. The thing I've always said with the real world assets, specifically something like real estate, is why don't we try to tokenize assets that are already digital first? Because the problem with something like real estate is, you don't, unless it's some sort of ETF or group of real estate things, you don't need to be able to easily transfer it and swap it on a day-to-day basis, right? Whereas I can imagine there's other types of digital assets that you might, and that aren't tokenized right now.
There is, I will say there is a huge need for, not a huge need, but there's a huge desire real estate wise to tokenize it and to get into shares. So let me give you an example. Austin, you just bought your house, right? You sold it with Phantom. Now, if you didn't have that Phantom, what were you doing before that? You're renting a house.
Right. I was renting.
So what, like, you try to look for revenue streams, yes? And real estate, most people know real estate is like, it's not guaranteed, but it's a really good revenue source. So some people want exposure to that type of market, just like people are doing treasury bills. With real estate, people want exposure to that. They want exposure to the upside. However, they can't afford it. So what do they caveat and go into? Well, they go into stocks because they think it goes up and they can buy shares. Just like with Robinhood, it exploded even more because people can now buy fractionalized shares. The same concept occurs with real estate. Like someone who wants exposure to real estate, they can't buy $100,000 house, $200,000, $50,000. They can't buy that. However, they want exposure to that. If you can tokenize a house, you are able to open up the market demand for it by allowing participants who normally wouldn't be able to get into that, be able to purchase a real estate asset or house asset, whatever you want to call it. And then you also have on the owner side, they are able to now get more than what they were asking. So the reason why they would get more is they can sell it for a premium. Why? Because now they are breaking it up into shares. And let's say they have a $100,000 house. They split it up into 100 different shares. Instead of charging $1,000 for each of those shares, they can say, hey, it's $2,000 because you have that unit bias. And me as a person, I'm willing to pay that premium. If I only have $5,000 to my name, I'm like, yeah, I'll pay 2x for that just so I can get real estate exposure. So the owner loves it. And the guys buying it, they love it. They get exposure to real estate. The owner gets 2x for what he was originally getting. I mean, it's like, but I agree to your point. There's different things that need to be ironed out. Like, what if some dude owns 50 of those shares and the other 50 are in other hands? Can he actually buy the house and move in and live in it? Who gets to live in the house in the meantime? Like, what's...
Well, that's such a good use case, though. Like fractional ownership, I think, if the terms were very clearly spelled out, is very interesting as an investment vehicle.
It's something I want to create. I just don't have the coders and developers to do. I got the networks in real estate.
But there may be the real estate regulatory. Huh? Yes, you do. There's probably some regulatory stuff you got to look into as well.
Okay, so here's the cool thing about real estate. And if you are renting a house, selling a house, whatever, they technically say you got to have like a real estate license and whatever. But there's a gray area for it. The gray area is if you have ownership of the house. If you have ownership of the house, you can do whatever you want. You can rent that house. You can sell that house. You don't have to pay a realtor commission. You don't have to do all that jazz. You don't have to have a real estate license to do that. Now, there's also a gray area for other people's properties. The gray area is it's illegal to do this, like rent out other people's properties or sell them if you're getting a commission. So like I can sell someone else's property. Like I can sell your property if I'm not getting a commission. So like you can do all of that stuff. That's also kind of a reason why like Zillow can list on the market and other people list on the market for you, like different websites. It's because they aren't taking a commission on it. So I guess going back to like the regulation wise, if there is a way for someone to be able to take this house and tokenize it, and they still have ownership and they issue out those shares because they still have custody and they still own it, then there could be that ability to do that. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I do know that if I go buy, I don't know, 100 candy bars from someone or I buy a house from someone, I can then go sell that house to someone else. And I don't have to go through, obviously you have to pay like capital gains taxes and whatnot, but like I can sell that house. I don't have to do anything. Like I can literally just sell it. I don't need a license to sell that. I just sell it.
Interesting. Very interesting, man. I don't know. I think there probably is a lot there as an investment vehicle, but it kind of all ties back to investment vehicles, right? Like I did actually see a guy collateralize. What did he collateralize? A Rolex or something. Yeah. And then the position was referenced with an NFT, and then he took a loan against it, right? So, I mean, that's interesting. It's very interesting stuff.
I mean, I'm not in the. I wonder how like a pawn shop does it. Like, I mean, if you think about it, it's like you can, like they have hard money loans, if someone that's like a handshake agreement that you can make. There's no
I
license.
just had
for
an
that.
idea. Is there an on-chain pawn shop for NFTs? I guess is there like an
Dude.
on-chain pawn shop? Because right now I've had times, for
Well,
example,
JPEG.
where is that where you can take a loan out against it?
Yeah, you can get a loan against them. You can get it in PETH or I think PETH is
I'm
the
thinking,
only thing.
but is that? Yeah, I guess that's similar to a pawn shop. I was thinking that.
Yeah, it's like MakerDAO is a pawn shop for ETH.
But I was thinking a pawn shop is like a little different, but yeah, I guess it's close enough. I mean, because I know that you can do it as collateral. I'm just thinking, there's not that aspect of I guess there's the loan aspect. I was thinking the pawn shop of like someone who's actually going there to sell something, like Pawn Stars for NFTs.
Yeah, I remember Pawn Stars. That was fun. Well,
Best
Austin,
I can do is $20.
Yeah,
20. I'll take that. Austin, I know we've been taking up a good portion of your time. And is there anything in general that you want us to talk about or cover?
No, man.
I love that you want to mention.
I love shows like this where we just don't know where we're gonna go. You know what I mean? Like that's my favorite. Controlled chaos. It's the best.
Yeah, disorganized chaos. Not even controlled. It's disorganized chaos.
Yeah, man.
But
I
mean, if you, I'm sorry.
I said I loved being here, man. It was great. It was great coming on.
Dude, I appreciate you jumping on, man. It was fun. I love chatting with you. Patrick, did you have anything you want to bring up before we close it out with the wisdom one-liner?
No, I mean, I'm sure I'll have to watch back and learn a little bit more about Shimmer. It's great to actually be able to talk, Austin, because I followed you for a long time. Big admirer of what Blockbytes has built as someone who's running a one-man content operation right now. I admire what you guys have been able to do.
Thank Austin, you. Speaking of, Patrick, speaking of followers, talking about Austin, where can we find you, man? Where can we hear more about you? Where can we learn more about you?
About me? So you go to blockbytes.com, which is okay. So blockbytes.com is like our content hub, although we haven't really dude, I have to piss so bad. Like, honestly, I'm telling you guys. So blockbytes.com, Blockbytes Media on YouTube, or at blockbytes.com on X, Twitter.
On X.
Share
those links with me, and I'll drop them in the description below so people can give you a follow and check you out.
You got it, dude.
We're going to hit you guys with Proverbs chapter 12, verses 1. This is my favorite one. Well, I have a lot of favorites, but this one's cool. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. So that's pretty intense. Dude, I love it, man. King Solomon is like as real as it gets, dude.
Does it really say the word stupid?
It literally does. I'll do a screen share right now. Let's see.
That's
Drake is especially a fan of wisdom one-liners that involve the word discipline.
Dude, I love the discipline.
Last week's one also had discipline in it.
All right, here it is. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid.
Is stupid. Well, that's NIV. So they're using more current language than that. That's awesome.
I wonder what some other ones.
If you go to King James, I'll bet they're giving you
a little bit more.
Still says stupid. That's insane.
I wonder what the old school days was. So King James. Where's King James? I'm probably missing it. Tell me if you guys see it. I'm looking. NKJ. What?
And then a couple weeks ago, I was talking to Drake about training my Belgian Malinois dog, and he also said how he loved the discipline. So I guess
discipline. I love
you just skipped over it, buddy.
I did.
You just skipped over it. Yeah.
All right,
slow down. Right.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I got dyslexia, man. I miss. Oh, it's brutish. What is brutish?
Brutish. Apparently means stupid. Yo, brute.
Dude, that was fun. We have you back on again. But
thanks, buddy. Love being
awesome.
here.
Thanks for jumping on, Patrick. Thanks for jumping on. Abs, the guy without abs, he's working on them now. We'll see you guys. What is it? Friday. Yeah, we'll see you guys Friday. Peace out, guys.